All right.
The Board of Direct Entry Midwifery meeting is convening at 8:07 a.m. on July 13th, 2023. This meeting is being held by MS Teams video conference and is being recorded. The recording will be posted to the internet for public viewing. The Health Licensing Office asks that individuals attending through MS Teams keep your phone muted and your cameras off during the entire meeting until you are given an opportunity to comment during the public and interested parties feedback period if indicated on the agenda. Please do not use the chat feature during meetings. I will now call roll. Kelsey Fisher here. Meredith Klein. Still absent. Wendy Smith.
Here.
Christine Morales.
Here.
Lynette Pettibone.
Here.
Meredith Mance.
Here.
Did we also have our public member who's not on this list?
Chair, members of the board, the public are signed on at this time. They don't come on this list.
I meant our consumer board member, didn't we?
Hi, Kelsey. This is Sammy. She won't be sworn in until September.
Oh, okay. Thanks.
Sorry about that. It was supposed to happen in May, but things got turned around.
Sure, no problem. Thanks. Members, when you wish to speak, please state your last name for the record. Board members are asked to not use the chat feature during meetings. Public members attending in person wishing to speak must first sign in on the roster sheet available. For public members calling in on the public phone line or via MS Teams, please email April Fleming at april.fleming@oha.oregon.gov and provide your first and last name. Public and interested parties' feedback may be heard during the public interested parties' feedback period if indicated on the agenda. Everyone is asked to use appropriate language, manners, and protocols when conducting board business. The meeting is called to order.
Hi, good morning, everybody. This is Bob Bothwell. So, Madam Chair, members of the board, first item on the agenda would be approval of the agenda.
Does anyone move to approve the agenda?
This is Meredith Mance, and I move to approve the agenda.
Motion has been made. Is there someone who will second it?
This is Christine. I second.
Thanks, Christine. A motion has been made and seconded. I'll call for a vote. Kelsey Fisher, aye. Meredith Klein, still not here yet. Wendy Smith.
Aye.
Christine Morales.
Aye.
Lynette Pettibone.
Aye.
Meredith Mance.
Aye.
Great. Motion passed. The agenda is approved.
Thank you very much. Next on the agenda is approval of courses in case number 157859. And we have Trampus Shuck, the regulatory manager, on the line here. Trampus, do you want to go through this with the board, please?
Hello, everyone. So we are back talking about a few some additional information regarding this default order for education review. Just a little reminder, the last board meeting that we had, we brought some, she had submitted some classes for approval as well as the supervisor. You approved one or two of them, and also the supervisor, and had sent back to find a different ethics class and to see if she could find a class that was about management of post dates. So she found some classes. I think it looks like she actually took a couple of them, and they are here being submitted for your review on those two subjects, ethics and management of post dates. So. And then as well as she also submitted a letter for you all to review as well regarding this subject. So has everybody had a chance to see all that information?
I'm still looking it over. Sorry, it's been a
Okay,
hectic
all right.
week, but I'm open if people want to start discussing it. If anyone has thoughts on the courses.
This is Meredith Mance. I think the nursing and midwives ethics class looks fine to me. I don't see any issue with this overall. The one that says, not the ethical student one, it's the other one, the ethics for nurses and midwives, I think is what it's called. That one seems fine to me. The ultrasound one seems useful, but I think if we're looking for post-dates management, that probably doesn't cover it. But I do understand like she's having a hard time finding what we're looking for too, which is a reasonable issue, I get. But yeah, so definitely ethics. I think the ultrasound one we kind of have to talk whether that's what we intended or not. But yeah, I hear her.
I agree that ethics course seems fine. Does anyone have any concerns about the courses submitted?
I'm just trying to find like which I see the emails, but I don't know which like I guess I just didn't see them. I felt that like I read through everything and didn't see it, so maybe I missed it, or maybe there was another
It's
email.
in the meeting
the agenda.
Oh, okay. I think
Yeah.
that's why.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Because that was sent out like yesterday, the day
Yeah.
before. Okay. Yeah. So I'll look at it. Sorry.
That's okay. Yeah, typically things that happen in a public meeting will be in the meeting materials.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I think the ethics one seems good, but I don't know that the other one really addresses post dates. So.
So I think the biggest issue is just that it isn't a class on like post-dates management. It's just identifying dating and what the BPP does. And the order does say management of post-dates pregnancy. Um, but I also I want to acknowledge like the value of going back and forth like this over the course of what will end up being many years. Like, what are we actually accomplishing in terms of safety by doing this is kind of how I'm feeling. So I think one thing we can do is recommend a course, like recommend a risk assessment course or something broader. Another thing, I don't know if we can do this just since there's already a final order that was obviously made before most of our times. But one thing I would recommend is maybe we just ask to see her post-dates consent to show that she did the thing and that we understand the practice and care that she's giving moving forward. Because that seems more important to me than actually like going back and forth and wasting lots of time talking about whether this is the right course or that's the right course. Like, the goal is safety. The goal is not just to take the right course that fits the thing, right? And for me, seeing proof that she's processed this information would do that for me. Like, I want to see a post-dates consent for her clients moving forward, and I would feel comfortable with that if it was good for me. I don't know how you guys feel about this, but yeah, I do. Like, I hear her on the I don't have direction here, and it does feel like we're kind of wasting a lot of time.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's really difficult when we've been take a course on this thing and then that thing isn't available. And it sounds like she has resat for her NARM, and presumably there were some questions about post dates on that and that she would have studied it. And part of this case was changing a due date, and that is something that seems like it would be covered in that ultrasound class. And so I'm inclined to accept this, given everything that she states that she's done in between. And then that's maybe a bigger policy discussion of, how the board moves forward when we want someone to get education or training on a specific thing and then they can't find a course to that extent. But I'm inclined to just approve these courses, and if we want to do one more round of send us your thing, we can, but this has already been a lot of back and forth, and I'm inclined to just approve these and move on.
Yeah, I mean, this is Wendy. I definitely agree with Christine. It's really it's less about the actual course of what you learn from the course, unfortunately. So it would be I don't know how we would do this, but it would be, this is almost the kind of person who, you'd like to get them in front of you and hear what they, and what they have to say about how they would have done things differently.
Yeah, I mean, I do think Meredith recommended that we could request hey, do you have a protocol or an informed consent about management of post-dates pregnancy if we want to go that route.
Yeah, I mean, this was also about,
and that would be, we don't have another meeting until September, so that would be another several months of holding up this person's license.
Well, I know that, but I agree, and I also feel like that letter is holding us hostage. It's sort of that letter was super problematic in that it's kind of saying, look, I'm doing this really great thing for the community, and you guys are preventing me from being able to do this really great thing for the community. It just feels like I wish we could vet this person a little bit, since she feels like this is what, her role is going to be, is coming in to do a great thing for the community.
I think time-wise for me, I don't have an issue asking for the proof. If we're willing to go with a different class that's not exactly the wording of the order, I don't think it's inappropriate for us to wait until the next meeting to approve that, to see proof that it's been incorporated into our practice. So I think that's my recommendation on my end, is let's ask to see her clinical practice guidelines and post-dates consent, clinical practice guidelines regarding post-dates management and a consent form if she has it, and then I would feel comfortable with that. And then we can review it and take a look at the next meeting. I don't know how everybody else feels about that, but I feel like that would be a balance of not just saying, okay, that's fine, we'll just take it, whatever, and also proving that we get the information that we need to get without asking her to do something that she can't complete.
Sure. So do we, is there any question or concern about the ethics courses? So that's something that we could take a vote on today, and we could approve those. And then I don't know if we'll need to change anything yet. If Heather wants to chime in, if we can review
Sure.
her informed consent and or practice protocols in lieu of a class.
So thank you. This is Heather Vogelsong, counsel for the board. So under this particular order, there's not a lot of leeway to request additional documents because it was just the terms of the final order itself is different than what you would get in a settlement agreement, where you do have more authority to ask for additional information and additional things to see. So currently, what the board has in front of it is just the final order that she needs to comply with. If you wanted to change the terms of that, then you would want to be entering into a different type of agreement with her. So you wouldn't, under this particular order, you don't have the leeway to just request additional things. You don't have that jurisdiction over her. If the board wanted to pursue something different, then it could do that, but it would be in a different form of agreement, which would ultimately change this final order.
So then it
Heather,
sounds
how
like,
would that, oh, sorry.
go ahead, Meredith.
Heather, I was just going to say, I mean, in terms of wording, how would it work if it not necessarily like changing the intention or the order, but saying in lieu of this class, we are willing to accept XYZ?
Mm-hmm. So, so that would be, there's no language like that in this final order. So to have the ability to change that. And so that's why I'm saying that if you wanted to go that route, then what you would want to do is amend the final order and go that route, reach agreement to as to what would be agreeable in a new document, and then do an amended final order that would have whatever language you would want her to meet, whatever classes you would want her to meet, and then have that done so that she could fulfill that final order.
Is that the route that people are interested in taking, is amending the final order?
I would be in favor of that if it wasn't too problematic, but
I agree. I think as long as it's not like a crazy intense process, then, as just semantics, I'm good with that. Because it does kind of feel like we're being, I think what he described as being held hostage by her letter, but also kind of held hostage by the order that none of us, or very few of us, wrote. So how would we do that? Would we just make a motion to, like, what is the most direct course of action to get through this?
So I think that you would as Kelsey mentioned, you could go forward on the ethics class. It looks like there is a difference there. And then in relation to the language that you would want to change on the post-dates course, then you could give direction as to what you would like to change under 1.2. And then HLO can contact the respondent and work forward to see whether an agreement can be reached, and then it would be worked through the details and then brought back to you at a future time if an agreement could be reached.
Does anyone have ideas on language? I was thinking something along the lines of demonstrate satisfactory understanding of management of post-dates by submitting
I think that makes sense to me, Kelsey. Like demonstrates.
informed consent, clinical
Yeah,
guidelines.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
This is Wendy to clarify. I mean, I don't, do you, I think clinical practice guideline is probably the best wording because you don't have an informed consent, do you, that you have to give someone for post-dates management, do you, or?
Some practices do. I think it varies practice to practice.
Yeah, I mean, we don't,
So we
so
could take clinical practice guidelines and, if applicable,
yeah.
any relevant consent forms.
I mean, not to be like totally persnickety, but I mean, one of the problems came in that she changed this person's dates inappropriately, right? I mean, so like the post dates problem, it became less of a issue to her because she wasn't as post dates, you know what I mean? So we don't have any way to get at that, I guess, unfortunately, but
I do think the ultrasound course helps with that a little bit because it does give like really clear guidelines on, like it says in the description of the course, when dating is done, when you change it, when you don't change it. So at least like, I do feel like at least that piece is in that course.
okay. I mean, I hope so. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier about that course at least covers that portion of post dates and that you don't change due dates.
Well, then this is Wendy, and I would be in favor of altering the final order if that's appropriate to reflect the request or submission for a practice guideline regarding post dates.
The campus. If you settle on language for the settlement agreement, it may be possible to have, if I take it to her and she agrees to the language that directly that you're proposing, could we go straight? Could we have that language be, that final language be approved by Kelsey, or so she could sign it if we're able to get it and done and signed by Luxford? Could that be all approved through Kelsey, so we don't have to?
Trampus, that's a great way
Yeah.
to do the motion. So when the board makes the motion, they can delegate approval to a person on the board for finalization of that agreement, of that language, and then that way it makes it faster in terms of reaching the agreement for her to sign. But then the board would have to come back. It would have to come back and the agreement would have to be approved by the entire board. So, but they could also delegate to one particular board member approval of whatever documentation she submits. So they could do that to speed up the process. But the if a settlement agreement is reached, then that settlement agreement has to be approved by the entire board. It can't just be approved by one person.
But if we are just amending the final order, then we could delegate the approval of that amendment to one person, and then the whole board would have to meet to verify that the documentation is sufficient, or we could delegate that board approval to one person also. Is that what you were saying?
So yeah, there's several things that are happening here, and this is not normal procedure. So for the language of the agreement, that could be delegated to a board member so that when that agreement is reached and the language is sufficient for the document, that a person who's been approved by the board can look at that. So that can be sent out to the respondent. And then if there's the agreement reached and she signs it, then approval of that document needs to come back to the board so that the board can approve it. The board doesn't usually approve things before we have a signature in place by the respondent, and that's set. But then after that document is in place, then there can be approval to have a particular board member approve whatever documentation or whatever it is that they want her to meet. So if there's a different class or if there's practice guidelines that you're having her submit, then one particular board member could be designated as the person to approve that. So today you would just be moving to offer a settlement in this case. It's already been final ordered, so it's really changing the route of this case, but you can do that. But the steps for doing that are a little, we need to follow the steps of the process, and then the board needs to actually approve the final agreement that is reached as a board.
Heather, this is Bob.
Yeah.
So are we talking about amending the final order or doing a settlement agreement?
Well, I think those are logistics we'll work out behind the scenes as to which type of document it needs to be in. Okay. So, yeah.
So we're gonna make a motion for what? For her to demonstrate understanding of post dates by providing clinical practice guidelines?
Is that the language?
I would say clinical practice guidelines, informed consent, or other relevant documents.
So just to be, so are we going to, we'll make a decision on the ethics standards course for nurse midwives to approve that course?
Yeah, it sounds like we want to approve that. So I don't know if we could do it all in the same vote. If someone wanted to make a motion to approve the submitted ethics course, and also to either amend the final order or draft a settlement agreement changing the requirement for post dates management from a class to submitting satisfactory documentation of understanding, including clinical practice guidelines, informed consent, or other
Now,
necessary documentation.
There are 4 classes here that are being submitted for approval or denial. So I believe that we have to make a decision on each one of these, whether or not that these would be appropriate to fulfill the settlement agreement. So, you know, I don't know. Sounds like we've heard from most people, and you know, somebody could make a motion to do the ethical standards course, but I think we probably need to make a decision, yes or no, on the other 3 courses as well.
That'd be the cleanest way to be able to track it historically.
Mhm.
I mean, the ultrasound one is yes and, right? It's not just like yes
Right.
or no.
Right. The ultrasound course is like a partial fulfillment of the
Yeah.
management of post dates.
I mean, in the approval of the ultrasound, could we use that to open the movement to amend? I don't know. I'm just asking, like, if you can tell us what the easiest way to do that is, because we would like her to take this course if she has not already taken it because of the dating aspects, but it isn't going to fulfill the full requirement. So just saying denied, like, doesn't feel right either.
Right. And it looks like she completed the ultrasound course and then the student preceptor course, but she hasn't taken the one ethics course that it sounded like we were most in favor of, which was the ethics and ethical standards course for nurses and midwives.
Yeah, so you'll have to, I think, give an up or down vote on the ethicals, navigating ethical student preceptor client relationships, and up and down for the ethical standards for nurse midwives, and then the are we ethical. We'll need a vote on each one of those, as well as the understanding ultrasounds.
So Kelsey, this is Heather. Perhaps the best way to do it is to go through each of the 4 courses. If the ultrasound course is not in and of itself sufficient, then it would be not accepting that. And then the final vote would be to give direction to HLO to seek agreement with the respondent for changing 1.2, which is part of the final order, and then putting in what it is that you want to have it changed to. The ultrasound course plus the documentation that you want to see, or however you want that to be. So it would be 5 votes. That way you do hit the courses and it's nice and clean for HLO's tracking purposes. The 5th vote would be whether it's the ultrasound course plus or whatever you want to change 1.2 to. Does that make sense? Does that help? Does that sound okay, Trampus?
Yeah, I think that probably would be the best thing to do.
Is anyone up for starting to make some motions about the courses?
I can do it.
Thanks, Meredith. Was there any more discussion anyone wanted about specific courses or moving forward with this? Or are we just ready for the votes?
Okay. Heather, can you give me that language one last time on the 5th motion?
I think the best way to do it is to move to provide direction to HLO to change 1.2 in the final order, and then insert your language, whether it's the ultrasound plus a documentation or whatever it is that you want her to submit to show that meets your requirements. So providing direction to HLO, that gives them the leeway to work through whatever documentation we need to do, whether it's an amended final order or a settlement agreement or however we need to do that.
And do we want to also delegate approval of the final language to one of us?
That would be great if you could do that at the same time. Thanks, Kelsey.
Okay, one second, sorry.
And
I'm
also,
taking this with me. I'm good.
do you want to delegate the final approval of the document that she submits to someone, or do you want it brought back to the full board for review?
They could do that today, or they could do that at a later date. Totally up to the board.
This is Lynette, and I have a question. It seems to me that in theory, Trampas could hand her the paper, she could sign it, and she could at the same time provide those documents that then once the board approved the letter and the signature could review. So it could all potentially happen very quickly. Is that not true?
We could potentially do that. I feel like that's a definite possibility. Yeah, I mean, I guess technically we could have the language done, have that language looked at, kind of finalized by one board member, have her look at it, sign it, and if she's able to submit that document to go along with the signature and the settlement agreement for full board approval, we could do that at the next meeting and have all of it submitted and done and that piece of paper in hand. If she didn't, give us that if she didn't give us that informed consent for the board to look at, then at the time that we approved the settlement agreement at the next meeting, I assume we can get this all done by the next board meeting. Then there could be a decision made at that time, it sounds like, as to whether or not that document needs to come back to the full board at the next meeting, or if that document can be reviewed in the interim by a single board member.
And sorry, just last question on my little piece here. In writing, when I'm delegating, what am I delegating? Can you repeat that one more time?
The final language for the respondent, the final language in the document for the respondent to sign. That way it keeps it open so we can make sure we got the right agreement.
Okay, I think I'm good. If everyone feels ready for me to start moving away.
Whenever you're ready.
And thanks, Lynette. That was a great idea to try to have it all wrapped up at once.
Okay, so this is Meredith Mance. In case number 15-7859, I move to, in regarding courses, I move that we do not approve Understanding Ultrasounds course for the purpose of this final order.
And this is Wendy Smith, and I second. Oh, no, we don't have to. Sorry. Do we have to
I
second
didn't think
that?
that's how
You
we
do,
wanted to do
yeah.
this, so I'm just
Oh.
confused.
I thought we had to do one at a time and then go back and do.
But I thought we wanted them to take this class.
We do, but we can't say it in this order. This is related to the if we wanted them to take this class under this order, that's one thing, but we don't. We want it with the new order. It's part of the amendment, so we're denying it for the purpose of this order, and then I'm making a new motion at the end with the new stuff.
Right. This course does not fulfill 1.2 of the current.
But then we're going to amend 1.2 in a different motion.
Yeah.
So that it does.
Sorry. Got it. Continue. It's been motioned and seconded.
Great. Motion has been made to deny the understanding ultrasounds course. I'll call for a vote. Kelsey Fisher, aye. Meredith Klein, not here. Wendy Smith,
Aye.
Christine Morales,
Aye.
Lynette Pettibone,
Aye.
Meredith Mance.
Aye.
Motion passes. That course is not approved.
And this is Meredith Mance again, and in case number 15-7859, I move that we do not approve navigating ethical student, preceptor, and client relationships for the purpose of this final order.
And this is Wendy Smith, and I second.
Motion has been made and seconded. I'll call for a vote. Kelsey Fisher, aye. Wendy Smith,
Oh, aye. Sorry.
Christine Morales,
Aye.
Lynette Pettibone,
Aye.
Meredith Mance.
Aye.
Motion passes. The course is not approved.
And this is Meredith Mance again, and in case number 15-7859, I move to approve the course Ethics and Ethical Standards course for nurse and midwives to fulfill this final order.
This is Wendy Smith, and I second.
Motion has been made and seconded. I'll call for a vote. Kelsey Fisher, aye. Wendy Smith,
Aye.
Christine Morales,
Aye.
Lynette Pettibone,
Aye.
Meredith Mance.
Aye.
Motion is approved.
All right. This is Meredith Mance again, and in case number 15-7859, I move that we do not approve the course Are We Being Ethical for the purpose of this final order.
This is Wendy Smith, and I second.
Motion has been made and seconded. I'll call for a vote. Kelsey Fisher, aye. Wendy Smith,
Aye.
Christine Morales,
Aye.
Lynette Pettibone,
Aye.
Meredith Mance.
Aye. Right, this is Meredith Mance again. In case number 15-7859, I move to provide direction to HLO to amend section 1.2 in the final order to require the Understanding Ultrasounds course, along with documentation that just demonstrates understanding of post-dates management through the submission of clinical practice guidelines, informed consent documents, or other relevant practice documents, and to delegate approval of final language in the order for the respondent to sign and approval of documents by the chair.
This is Wendy Smith, I second.
Motion has been made and seconded. I'll call for a vote. Kelsey Fisher, aye. Wendy Smith,
Aye.
Christine Morales,
Aye.
Lynette Pettibone,
Aye.
Meredith Mance.
Aye.
Motion passes. So I think with that, that puts us into our next agenda item. So on to policy.
Hi, everyone. This is Sammy. I'm on vacation, so I'm not going to be on screen because I'm not presentable. So I'm just going to report out on the Legend Drugs and Devices Committee, which has been going along very smoothly. Brandon Chastain, who works in Cerinthia's area, has been taking the lead on that and working with the subject matter expert. When you look at it, it looks like several meetings have been canceled, and they have. But right now, they're pretty much only working on writing the written test questions, which looks to be about a 3-hour course, a 3-hour test, and will be 70 to 75 mandatory questions. So it's not necessary to have everybody meeting about writing test questions, but Brandon's met with her about 5 times. I've sat in kind of behind the scenes a few of those meetings. He's gotten her books that she the subject matter experts, Holly Scholas. Books that she needed, some information on how to write test questions, and just kind of moving forward at the August, what's that date? August 24th. Yes, meeting they'll be bringing forward, and I'll be there for this one, some of the examples of the test questions, and then some specific information where Holly needs some clarification on. Trying to think of one of them was some weird positioning. I can't remember what it is, but so there'll be that, and then hopefully at the October meeting, the board will move everything forward to the rulemaking process. So, and at that meeting, I'll have a rule schedule and ask for recommendations for rec members, and just to get that process going. So for the start of the year. And then the last thing is the TXA FAQ. We've got it pretty much done. I have a few more revisions to make, and it will be done. My question is, do you want to see the final product before it's published? Do you want to delegate somebody to review the final product before it's published, or do you want us just to publish it?
I would like to see it, and yeah.
Okay.
I mean, if you, I don't know that you need to mandate to delegate me to see it, but I really would like to review it if that's okay.
Yeah, it doesn't, we can bring it back to I'm not sure the September meeting, and everybody can look at it, or just have you. It really just depends on what you guys want.
This is Lynette, and I'd also like to see it. So hopefully we can bring it back to the board.
Okay, so we'll plan on the September meeting. However, the September meeting is really full. So, but let's plan on that. And that's all. Oh, no, I have a policy, my legislative man. So legislation's done. And we had a couple bills passed. So we got a new board, the sign language interpreter board. We think it'll be about between 200 and 300 licensees. We had 217 that's directly related to cosmetology. And then at the last meeting I provided, hold on, I gotta find it in here. Bills of interest that I thought you guys would be interested in. All three of those passed. House Bill 2002 about reproductive rights. 2420 about access to birth and death certificates, and Senate Bill 573 for birth record. And you can go on those links and look at the vote and the final text and all of that, as long as you have the materials. Is there any questions about that?
Not for me.
Okay, that's all I've got.
Thanks, Sammy.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.
Enjoy the rest of your vacation.
Will do.
Thank you. I didn't realize that being presentable was part of this online meeting requirement. Sorry.
You're fine. Okay, so chair, members of the board, next on the agenda is my report, director's report. First on that is board member recruitment, and currently we have Kelsey Fisher. Kelsey's in her second full term, and your term expires September 18 of 2023, and cannot reappoint. Next is Meredith Klein, second full term. Term expires June 30 of 2025, cannot reappoint. Lynette Pettibone is in second full term, which expires February 13 of 2026, cannot reappoint. Meredith Mance, first term, which expired 6/30 of 2023, can reappoint. And Christine Morales, second full term, which expires February 28, 2026, cannot reappoint. And Dr. Smith, second full term expired a little bit ago, September 30, 2020, and is graciously serving until replaced. Then we have one public member vacant, but that should be filled by the next board meeting or in September. Any questions? Very good. And
Bob, do
then
you know if there are like approved LDMs that are just waiting for the vacancies? I know that that's something that had been like the goal in the past.
I don't know that off the top of my head. Derek, I see is on the line if he's in his office. Derek, can you answer that?
Yeah, hi everybody, Derek Foltz here. So currently there are no licensed midwives that have applied. I will be doing another round of recruitment probably in the next week or two, see if we can drum up any interest by the next round of Senate confirmations.
And so the board's aware, recognize that voice, because moving forward, I'm going to have Derek provide this report to you because he's more in tune with it. Next on my list is number of
Sorry,
licenses.
can I ask one more question about that?
Yes, ma'am.
So since if we don't end up with any applicants, does that mean like I could continue to serve the way that Wendy is? If the spot doesn't get filled?
This is Derek again. Yes, Kelsey, that's correct. So if you are willing to, you will be able to continue serving until replaced.
Thank you.
And that goes for everybody, right, Derek?
Correct, yeah. And also just a quick mention, Meredith Mance, I do see that you have completed the reappointment application, and I will be sending your information as well as the information for the public member to the governor's office at the end of the month. And then they will be planning on doing the actual Senate confirmation hearings at the end of September.
Great, thank you.
And board, what I'll do is I'll reach out to our communications folks to get some communication rolling with regards to, if we haven't already done it, they may be ahead of me, but get some communication rolling to get midwives that may be interested but aren't sure how to become board members, some information. My screen locked up. Okay, I see Wendy moving. Is everybody still able to hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. You had me worried for a second.
There was a lot of people nodding, but maybe your screen was frozen again.
Everybody's froze up on it. Okay. So, in the last, I can go down each one of these. I'll go through them briefly since everybody's seen them time and time again. In the last 4 quarters of fiscal year 2023, we've issued 10 new licenses. In the same fiscal year, the last 4 quarters, we've licenses that are renewed are online, the vast majority, which is a good thing. We'd like to try to get that to 100%. Licenses by age and gender, according to this, mostly female. Licenses by county, and we've been saying this by as long as I've been here, that is the county of residency, not the county where we have midwives working. The volume trends were pretty static. In the last fiscal year, and I apologize, that looks
10 is
something
probably
wrong.
not correct. Either
Yes,
time.
ma'am. I would agree. Thank you. Okay, and then the fiscal. piece of it. The board is still in the red, but we have some ebb and flow with the ending balance, and currently sitting at $432,468 in the red. Any questions about that, of any of those that I provided? Okay, hearing nothing. Regulatory report, Trampus.
Hello, everybody again. As you can see, the regulatory report, we have 2 bienniums still left on this report. This shows cases that are still open on that we have 5 that are still open from the 2021 biennium. And then we have 16 that are still open from the 2023 biennium. As usual, there's more detail regarding where all of these cases are coming. But basically, you can see that over the last 2 biennium, we received 45, and of the 45, we closed 24 of them so far. It shows that there are 27 that are, or 21 that are remaining open. The other thing that you have to take in perspective with that number is that several of these cases are actually also in process. They have been finalized and they're just in the process, and they haven't been officially closed in the system. So I think the case that's active, the number that's actively being worked is closer to 12 or 13. So, but we've got a lot of cases. We got a lot of cases over the 2023 biennium, kind of a bump, and a good portion of those are closed. But so we're seeing a little bit of a bump from that biennium. Anybody have any questions about this report?
Okay, thank you, Trampus. And Chair, members of the board, next on the agenda is public interested parties feedback. And I got handed a note that Silka is online. Silka, are you able to hear us and wanted to make a comment?
Yeah, let me read the script for that. At this time, the Board of Direct Entry Midwifery will hear public interested parties feedback. Members of the public, this meeting is being held by MS Teams video conference and is being recorded. The recording will be posted to the internet for public viewing. Please be sure to mute your microphone and only unmute when you have been recognized. Once recognized, please state your name and affiliation to the board for the record. Are you there, Silka?
Yes, just a second. Good morning. I was on video and phone and moving around. Well, first I just wanted to say, this is Silka Akerson from the Oregon Midwifery Council, and I wanted to say thanks so much for finally transitioning to a video meeting. It makes all the difference in the world to be able to see your faces and have a visual cue of who's talking, even for those of you who are off camera. So I really appreciate that. The second thing is I want to let you know that I'm leaving my position as the executive director of the Oregon Midwifery Council September 1st. And Emilia Smith, who some of you have met before, is taking my place as the executive director. So she'll be present at the board meetings and giving public comment for Oregon Midwifery Council instead of me moving forward. And then about the recruiting new board members, I just wanted to repeat something that I've said a number of times. I know that the board is unofficially moving down to a less frequent meeting schedule, but I think especially for the physician obstetrician role, that officially moving to a quarterly schedule with special meetings or something like that would really change recruitment. We actually have several people who we've recruited who are interested in serving in that position, but who cannot in their call schedule and clinical schedule in good conscience commit to a monthly meeting. And I think that's not just the case for physicians. I think that's the case for a lot of folks who serve. I think serving on boards is generally, since it's a volunteer position, is usually not at quite this frequency. And I understand that there are problems with that because it can make the investigative process go slower. I actually think looking at this in a systems way and asking ourselves why there are so many complaints coming in for such a small group of licensees is really important. And I noticed that there wasn't a report about where complaints were coming from, but I think that that's really important for the board and for the profession to understand, to work on relations, to work on routes of quality improvement that that where investigation may not be needed. And then I was somewhat concerned about the discussion about the case that you were all discussing, because the length and expense of this investigation is unreasonable from my perspective, and something that I'm seeing happen is that the board is just kind of continuously, like, that the initial order wasn't well reasoned, and there wasn't actually examination of whether the classes were available. But instead of the board being responsible for that, the midwife is just responsible for doing more and more and more, and it gets extended more and more. And this is one of the reasons why our investigations take so long and are so expensive. And I think that the board actually really needs to seriously consider what they require of a licensee and whether that requirement is doable before making the requirement, rather than going back repeatedly. For example, this isn't the only case where there's been a class requirement where that class doesn't actually exist or isn't available. And it seems if the board is going to require classes on a specific subject, the board needs to check that that class is available, or the board needs to contact OMC and see if OMC can offer a specific class before requiring it. And it makes me really uncomfortable to see this kind of continual extension of investigation that's actually based in not having really thought out and planned out the order the first time around. I don't think it's appropriate for the licensee to be responsible for that. Yeah, so those are all my comments, and I actually have one last comment, which is in the past, when we've been recruiting for LDM board members, it really is highly effective for there to be a one-to-one invitation. And I think it would probably be most effective to come from some current LDM board members. So if each person who's a current LDM board member could think about someone, an LDM that they think might be good for the board, and call them and ask them and say, this is what it's been like for me to be in this role. This is what this commitment looks like. I think you would be good for these reasons. We get so much more response from that than we get from emails or other impersonal requests. So I think in terms of filling positions as they come up and having applicants in the queue before the positions come open, I think you all, the LDM members of the board, have a lot of power in your hands to invite people into these roles and to let people know what you get out of this role, so that it's not just an obligation or a time commitment, but also that that it's been interesting, useful, beneficial to you as well. And I'm sure I'll come back to a board meeting sometime, but I just, it's like a joy to hear you and watch you work and to be part of these conversations over the years. And I'm feeling some sentimentalness at saying goodbye to being in this constant role of being a public commenter at these meetings.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ilka.
I see Amelia Smith. Well, she moved. Yep, she's still there. Chair. Amelia, did you want to make a public comment?
Yeah, Amelia, welcome. Sounds like we'll be seeing
Hi,
more.
thanks everyone. I'm not able to turn my camera on because I'm on a run right now, but I don't have any public comment today, but I am looking forward to moving into this new role with OMC and working with all of you in the future.
Thanks,
Thank
Amelia.
Okay. Chair, looks like we're on item 6, which is an executive session. It looks like the next few items are executive sessions that will come in and out of.
Let me make sure I have the right script. Okay. The Board of Direct Entry Midwifery will now meet in executive session pursuant to ORS 192.6602F, ORS 192.3559A, and ORS 40.225 for the purpose of considering information exempt from public disclosure at 9:14 a.m. on July 13th, 2023. Representatives of the news media shall be allowed to attend the executive session by conference call or MS Teams and will be provided further login instructions shortly. The public phone line and MS Teams will be muted for the duration of executive session. Are there any representatives of the news media on the public phone line?
Hi, this is Bob Bothwell, HLO. Are there any representatives of the news media on the line here? No, there is not.
Recognizing there is no news media in attendance, the public phone line will be muted for the duration of executive session. We will return to open session before taking any final action or making any final decisions. Do we have an estimate for the time of this executive session?
About
Go ahead.
10 minutes.
Okay. It is estimated that the board will return to public session at 9:25 a.m. Please be aware that it is possible that the board's executive session might last longer than 9:15 a.m. If the public has any questions about whether the board is still in executive session, then the public can contact April Fleming at april.fleming@dhsoha.state.or.us, which is a different email address than April is listed at in the other script. But anyways, we are now in executive session.